And today, scientists, engineers, and lawmakers come together to work on a plan to address our ongoing drought. The concern is whether the drought will turn into one of those mega droughts that could last as long as 30 years.
Jim Spencer attended today's Texas Water Summit at UT Austin. And Jim, this is exactly the type of scenario your in-depth reporting uncovered here last week.
Yeah, you'll recall last week we talked about the fact that we may be into an extended drought period, one that could linger to 2030. Well, you can find more about that forecast online right now at kxan.com. We've linked that story on our front page. Today's Water Summit addressed the many challenges in securing our water resources, and questions many people have involve why not remove salt from seawater, or what's called brackish water, that is underground water that's been exposed to chemical elements of rock for thousands of years. Well, I posed that question to UT research scientist Dr. J.P. Nico.
Do you see a time in the future where we no longer have to worry about running out of fresh water here because of the progress we make in desalination?
Certainly the cost has come down, the past few years. Not being a problem, I doubt it, because you will always have the issue of disposing of the waste. And the other side of using brackish water and desalinating brackish water is the amount of energy needed. And as you know, to produce energy, you also need water.
It all comes down to this. Central Texas needs more rain, and we may get some this coming holiday weekend. More on that in your First Warning forecast coming up.
Well, one Texas lawmaker says if the LCRA managed our water better, we might not be in as severe of a drought as we currently are.
That is the same thing a report from the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality said over the weekend. KXAN's Lindsey Bramson continues our team coverage now with what that report says the LCRA should have done differently.
With Texas expected to double the size of its population in the next 50 years, experts say the availability of water can and will limit our economic growth. Senator Troy Frazier believes the LCRA made mistakes along the way.
We needed to change the way we manage our lake, that in the time of drought, that we had to manage it very, very differently.
Over the weekend, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, also known as TCEQ, proposed major changes to the way LCRA distributes water from the Highland Lakes chain.
We think maybe we're in this, have been in this drought as many as 6 or 7 years, and I began to encourage LCRA that they could no longer continue to release water because our inflows into the lake weren't sufficient.
TCEQ says that if higher cutoff levels for downstream agriculture were used during extraordinary dry conditions in 2011, we could have preserved at least 50% of the water that was released.
We've been in a multi-year drought. It appears like that's going to be a continued trend, so we have to make the most or best use of the water available.
The LCRA will vote on whether to adopt TCEQ's changes to the water plan by September 1st. Otherwise, the decision will be handed to a judge. Lindsey Bramson, KXAN News.
And the LCRA just released this statement to us. It reads in part, quote, "The stark reality is that Mother Nature, not LCRA, caused this drought. In the meantime, LCRA is doing everything it can to efficiently manage the resources of the lower Colorado River." The TCEQ proposal to raise trigger levels for water releases will further the drought's devastating impact on rice farmers along the Texas coast.
Here's a closer look. The rice industry employs thousands of people in southeast Texas, and right now, farmers are going without irrigation water from the lakes for a third consecutive year. Crop insurance covered much of the losses from the past 2 growing seasons, but for many farmers, insurance will not cover a third year. This is already forcing rice growers to lay off their employees. If the drought continues and the trigger levels are raised even higher, as TCEQ proposes, the Texas rice industry could take a permanent hit.